maybe rather than vaguely defaming a widow for reasons that you're not even clear about, you even admit that, like, she might not be doing anything wrong at all. She might not be doing anything wrong at all, but I'll just kind of like wildly speculate that maybe there's something wrong with her. Maybe rather than doing that, maybe you should just shut the f*** up. Okay, how about that? So we've talked about Jennifer Welch on the show before. She's the repugnant hobgoblin who the left has apparently selected for their, to have the title of the new Joe Rogan. We heard about after the last election, the left really needs their own Joe Rogan, and they've been trying people out to be the new Joe Rogan. And they went out and found one. And apparently this is her. She's Joe Rogan minus any of his appeal or any of his talents or communication skills. Joe Rogan minus all of the things that makes him Joe Rogan. And here she is this week attacking Erika Kirk. Listen.
Her attack on substituting a relationship for a man with a substitution for the government is overtly an attack on poor people and the racist connotations in that, considering she's abundantly aware of when you talk about women and poverty, that Black and brown women stick off the charts more so than white women. This is an intentional attack on poor women. And this is a dehumanization, all done in the name of her Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, which is the exact opposite of what the central character of the faith of Christianity preached against. So this is intentional weaponization of her gender and her faith. And she is a grifter. And just look at the costume changes. Look at the costume changes. Look at the affect and how she does that. It's wild. This woman should be kicked to the curb. She is an absolute grifter, just like Donald Trump and just like her unrepentant, racist, homophobic husband was.
Okay, Jennifer, are you sure that is why you're so upset at Erika? Is it because of her wardrobe changes? Because God forbid Erika, change her wardrobe? She wears different clothing every day, and that's the problem. These soulless trolls, like every day, they make up a new rule that apparently widows are supposed to follow. Every day with these idiots, it's another thing. Well, if she's a grieving widow, why is she doing that? Why is she wearing different clothing today? Why is she eating a sandwich for lunch? Have you ever seen a grieving widow eat a sandwich? What is this? And so they make up these rules, and and the rules grow. But every day, I mean, the list now is 5 pages long of things that apparently grieving widows are supposed to do or not do, just arbitrarily invented. And if they don't follow these rules, if Erika doesn't follow the rules, then she's a fake and a fraud and not actually sad that her husband died. Right? You find the same thing with, I was just responding to somebody today. This was someone I think on the right who posted something as a picture of Erika smiling. And the person, I forget what the caption was, but the person was attacking Erika for smiling. Oh, yeah, she really looks like she's grieving. Yes, because when you're grieving, it means that you'll never smile. But keep in mind, right? If Erika smiles, then her critics on both sides will say, "Why are you smiling?" If she frowns, then they'll say, "Oh, well, she's faking it." If she cries, they'll say, "Oh, it's performance." If she doesn't cry, they say, "Why isn't she crying?" So it's this ridiculous lose-lose scenario that's been invented by people on both sides for this woman who what did she do wrong again? Like, what is her crime? Why is everyone attacking her? Why is it every day I go on Twitter and it's like someone, what is it? What did she do? What did she do to you people? Her husband died? Is that the sin that she committed? Losing her husband? Yeah, I'm so sick of it. I'm so tired of it. It's just disgusting. And if you're one of the people doing this, you should be ashamed of yourself if you're capable of it. And I can't stand these people that say, and I was talking about this today on X, and there are people responding, and saying, well, yeah, but there's just something a little off. I don't know. There's something a little off with her. It feels a little off. It's a little off. I'm not sure. I'm not saying there's anything wrong. It's a little off. I don't know. Well, maybe what's off with her is that her husband was just murdered. Maybe her husband was just shot in the throat on TV in front of the entire world. Maybe that's maybe she's a little off because of that. You know, maybe her emotional responses all the time are not exactly what you would expect. Like maybe that's it. Here's another idea. If you think that, well, I don't know, there's something a little off, but you have no evidence that like she did anything wrong, and yet you just have these vague, whatever, feelings, vibes. Well, maybe rather than vaguely defaming a widow for reasons that you're not even clear about, admittedly, you even admit that like she might not be doing anything wrong at all. She might not be doing anything wrong at all, but I'll just kind of like wildly speculate that maybe there's something wrong with her. Maybe rather than doing that, maybe you should just shut the f*** up. Okay? How about that? Maybe just keep it to yourself. It's like basic rule of human decency that we all used to understand is when you've got someone who's grieving, like even rather than nitpicking, I wouldn't do it that way. That's not the facial expression I would have. Maybe you just shut the f*** up. And I try not to cuss like that, but I'm so sick of it. I'm so tired of it. And Jennifer Welch, this is, and here's the thing, it gives even more permission to people like this. Now, someone like Jennifer Welch, you expect it out of her. You expect her to act this way. Right? But the more that everybody else does it, especially when you're on the right, people on the right, it's like everybody on the right now, everyone claims that they loved and admired and respected Charlie Kirk. Even though we all know that's not true. Even though we all know that a lot of them, when Charlie was alive, very clearly did not have respect for him and did not treat him that way. But now everyone respected and loved and admired him. Okay, fine. I'll take you at your word on that. So you love and admire and respect Charlie. Great. So do I. And so this is how you love, admire, and respect him? Is by criticizing and critiquing and nitpicking his wife after he's killed? That's what you do for someone you admire and respect. Is by going after his wife now that he's dead. You think that's what Charlie wants? You think that's what he wants? You think Charlie's looking on from the afterlife, nodding in approval as you critique and nitpick his wife? Is that what you think? By the way, just so you know, because one thing I've discovered is that a lot of people are just soulless trolls. I think we already knew that. But also a lot of people apparently have just never been around grief or mourning at all. They've never been around it, I guess. And if that's the case for you, good for you. Like, you've been very sheltered, that you have not even been around this. But that's all the more reason why you should shut up. Okay, Erika Kirk is dealing with something that you've never even come within the vicinity of, apparently. You've never even sniffed the kind of tragedy that she's enduring, which would tell me that maybe you have no clue how a person would really respond. You have no basis to be making judgments about whether her response is appropriate or not. Anyone who has been around this knows that people who are grieving loved ones, they'll smile and laugh at the funeral. That's not unusual at all. In fact, that's common. You go to the funeral of someone who died 3 days ago, And the people that love this person most, you're going to see them crying, of course, but they'll also be smiling and laughing at certain points. Why? Why do they smile or laugh? Well, maybe because they're warmly recalling something about their loved one that they loved. Maybe it's a fond recollection. Maybe someone else has said to them, "Hey, remember that time, that funny thing," and they're laughing. Maybe they're smiling in response to the kindness of the people around them. Maybe they're smiling because they're doing their best. Maybe they're just doing their best to come off as friendly and warm. There's a whole lot of reasons. Or maybe they're experiencing maybe for 1,000 other reasons, okay? Humans experience a range of emotions. And when you're grieving, it doesn't mean that you're only going to frown and cry every second of the day for the next year. That's not how it works. Actually, when you're grieving every single day, you'll experience intense swings of emotion back and forth all over the place. That is what is normal. And so to see someone who's grieving and 1 second they're smiling or even laughing and the next second they're crying, that's not unusual. That is normal. And the last point is anyone who says, well, why is she out in public? That's not normal. Yeah, well, it's not normal. That's true. But also a political assassination of a very famous and important figure is also not normal. So this is not a normal situation. So if you see things happening that aren't normal when a not normal thing happens, then that shouldn't confuse you very much. So why is she out in public? Well, I don't know. Maybe it's because her husband was a very famous and very important political and cultural figure who became the victim of the most high-profile political assassination of the century, and one of the most high-profile and consequential political assassinations in the history of this country. And her husband also ran a very important organization. And so Erika Kirk feels duty-bound to get out there and keep his legacy alive and preserve the work that her husband has done. And maybe she looks at it and sees that there are very hostile forces arrayed against her who want to tear down his legacy and destroy everything that he built. And so maybe she recognizes that she can't afford to just go home and kick her feet up for a year and then come back. Because maybe she knows that when she reemerges, there might not be anything left. When all these people that are trying to destroy everything Charlie has done, when they're finished. So maybe that's why she's out there. Just a thought. Maybe it's that. Anyway, Jennifer Welch, yeah, that's who we were talking about. Well, look, and someone like that, I have to wonder in your case, Jennifer, are you upset because Erika is still in her 30s? Like, are you upset at what you claim to be upset about, or is it because Erika's still in her 30s and you're a 55-year-old hag trying to look 32, but instead you just look like the crypt keeper? Are you actually upset? Like, is the real problem that Erika Kirk can form different facial expressions, but you've injected so much botulism into your face that you now have the facial dexterity of Stephen Hawking? Is that really maybe what you're upset about? I wonder. Or are you upset because maybe you're upset because Erika loves her husband and her children, and meanwhile you're divorced and your children hate you? Are you sure maybe that's not the real issue? I'm just wondering. Is your real issue that Erika knows what it's like to be loved by someone and to love someone, and you've never loved anyone or been loved by anyone in your pitiful, lonely, desperately pathetic life? I'm wondering if maybe that's your problem. Maybe your problem is that Erika loves her husband and children, and the only thing you've ever loved or has ever loved you back is a bottle of $12 white wine. Maybe your problem is the only person who wants to see you or is excited to see you is the cashier at the liquor store when you stop by 10 times a week. Maybe that's your problem. And I'll say all this, and I want to be clear. Even though I find you to be a miserable, horrific person, I would never celebrate and gloat over your death the way that you've celebrated and gloated over Charlie's death. You gloat over his death, you insult him, you attack his widow and his family because you're an evil, despicable, horrible person. Truly. But I would never do that to you. And I don't think anyone should do it. But the good news for you, I guess, Jennifer, is that you'll never be assassinated because you're not important enough for that. And when you do die, which will be, relatively soon, the next few decades, because you're old and getting older. But nobody will celebrate. We'll hardly notice. We're not even going to know what happened because we'll just forget you ever existed. Because unlike Charlie, you've had no impact on the world and you've never done anything that matters. So I just want to be clear about that. You're responding with glee to someone's death, and the response to your death is going to be, Your death is going to be, someone's going to hear about, who died? Oh, okay. Which one was that again? What did she do? Oh, okay. That's how people are going to respond to you when you die. Just so you know. Including probably your own family, just to be perfectly frank. And if it sounds like I'm going a little overboard or being a little harsh, maybe I am. But I'm just sick of people attacking and demeaning Erika. I am. Because the thing is, even though everybody now is claiming Charlie was my friend, I admired him. He actually was a friend of mine, and I did admire him. And attacking his wife, I take personally. I just do. And if you do that, then you're the lowest of low. You're just the lowest scumbag, and there is no insult that could be too extreme for you, in my opinion. Thanks for checking out this video. If you'd like to listen to my full podcast on the go, you can check out The Matt Walsh Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.